Hi, and welcome back to Redefining Your 20s. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the mastering the art of saying no. Learning to say no in your 20s is a skill, and it's something that sometimes you do have to work towards, especially to protect your energy, protect your time, mental health, because it can lead to burnout, resentment, and other items like your self-worth. But there is a difference between, saying no and protecting yourself versus working on your goals and working towards where you want to go. And sometimes we can go in between those as you're working towards your career goals, or sometimes you're in school or working on a trade or working on different items in your 20s. So you can't find that balance in finding to say no. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is kind of how do we say no, and to learn the difference between saying no versus working towards your goals, working towards where you want to be. Because yes, you are going to get tired. Yes, you will feel burnt out, especially if you're going to school. There are going to be weeks that you may not sleep, or that you're up all night studying for tests, doing homework, trying to get things in, or even in your career goals, if you're working on a project, or different projects that may stress you out. That's going to happen, and that's part of being in your 20s, because you're still learning. You're still learning how to do those skills or build yourself up. So that can happen. And so there's a difference between working towards where you want to be in life, versus protecting your health and protecting your energy, by saying no to different certain things. And so that's what we're going to take a look at today, on the art of saying no, versus if it's something that's important to you, something that you may need, something that may be useful in the future, then those are items that you may not want to say no to, even if you do feel tired or feel overwhelmed, and you may need a break. Sometimes you do have to keep going in your life or your career goals, to get to a certain point that you want to get to. But there is a point where you do need to protect yourself. And so that's what we're going to look at in today's episode for Redefining Your 20s, is really learning that skill of saying no, how to say no, and different ways that we can approach that. So I'm going to kind of give an example from the difference of not saying no because it's leading to your goals or your career aspirations of where you're wanting to go. So late September, early October, I was kind of going through a few things mentally and at home, and just a lot going on in different areas of my life. But during my job, I was asked to do a task that I knew would better me in the future and puts me in line to the goals that I'm wanting to go towards. So when I was asked to do this task, I had to take a minute, think about it, like, okay, am I mentally in the space to do this task? I was. I know how to balance from home life to work life, as I have 3 kids, so I have to learn how to kind of balance that. And I know that's not something that everybody has learned how to balance, how to keep things at home and keep things at work. But I knew that's something, when I come to work, I know how to be professional. I know how to speak to people. I know how to not let my anger out. Or if I'm sad, be sad for the day. I know how to get my work done. And I know how to do it with quality, get my work done. So I did take on this task because I knew that it would help me in the future. But in that space, what I'm kind of trying to get you to look at is, if you don't feel like you're in a mental space, take a look at what you're being asked to do. If it's something that aligns with your goals, something that's putting you where you want to be, something that will benefit you in the future, then maybe you don't say no in this situation. Maybe that's not a situation that you say no in. If it's something that aligns with what you want to do in the future, mentally you may not be there, but once you complete the task, like I did with this one, it led to more opportunities within my career goals. And so luckily, because I did that task, I was moved on to other opportunities. Would this opportunity have presented itself if I didn't take the task? I wouldn't know, because I did take it. And so that's kind of something that people are afraid of with saying no, is the fear of missing out. But you do have to evaluate what you're saying no to. So when you're looking at what you're saying no to and the fear of missing out, if you do say no, Some things are for socially, some things are for career goals, some things it's just for different items with family. You have to, if you need to take time to really look into what's being asked to you, make sure you do take that time. Take that time to evaluate what's being asked of you, if this is something that you're wanting to do. And sometimes it's not always missing out. Like for me at work, if it was something that was minor, that was extra than what I usually do out of my career that I knew wouldn't benefit me, I probably would have said no that week. But I took a look at the benefits, how it would affect me in the future, what skills I'm building, and how I can learn from this opportunity. So I took that task on. And so that's something that you really have to look at when you are afraid that you'll miss out if you do say no, because that is really hard in your 20s, especially socially as well, with your friends, with different things that are going on when you're in college, when you're out of college. There's so much that's going on, so many different things that you get invited to, and sometimes it's just not in your schedule or in your time, and you don't have to overexert yourself. If it's not, I guess some things are meaningful to you, but you have to pick the meaningfulness to it. If it's something that maybe can wait a week, or maybe you can go next time, make that decision. If you're not in the mental space to go out with your friends, don't go out with your friends. And it's hard to say no, especially if, maybe you are busy. Maybe you guys are always busy. I know for me, in my 20s, me and my friends that I grew up with, in high school mainly, we all ran into different schedules. We all had different things going on. We started barely seeing each other, less and less. And so when they would ask to see me, sometimes I wanted to be obligated to make sure that I could make anything that they were asking me to see them. But I realized, I do have a lot going on. I had school going on. I had different items going on. I had a child. And so I had to prioritize where I wanted to be, and the decisions that I wanted to make. So sometimes I did have to say no. And yes, it was hard because I didn't know when I would be able to see them again. But did we keep on contact on the phone? Yes. I've always kept on contact with all my friends on the phone. We're always very supportive of all our decisions in life and what we're going through and everything that we've been able to do in our 20s. We're super supportive. We see each other when we can. And sometimes even on the day, we're not able to. And so I have friends in my circle that understand that. I understand when they tell me that, they have to cancel last minute because something came up or they forgot about something, because I do the same. And that doesn't make you a bad friend. That doesn't make them a bad friend. And if you do have friends that are making you feel that way, maybe you should reevaluate your friendships, because you don't want to have a friend that you feel like you're disappointing time after time after time, because then that can affect you mentally. And that can be draining, and you put a lot of energy into this friendship when they need to understand when you're working towards your goals, working towards future items, or you have a family, you have kids, and that is your priority. Friends need to understand. So you need to reevaluate maybe your friendships that you have with people or your relationships that you have with people, if they don't understand, why you're always saying no or why you can't do something. And you can be polite about it. You don't have to be rude and say, no, I don't have to explain myself. I know I see that all the time on the internet, is no, and just say no and don't explain it to anybody. But you can give them an explanation. You don't have to over explain, but you can say no. You can be polite about it. You can let them know what you have going on. Maybe let them know, let's revisit this time of when we can hang out or have this item done, or when we can see each other. That's how you can look at saying no. You don't have to just say no. I don't have to give you an explanation, because I feel like that is kind of rude if you say no to somebody and don't give them an explanation. If it's something you're going through mentally, you can say, hey, I'm not in the mental space for that, which for me, my friend circle who I'm around, they would understand that. If we're not in a mental space or mentally we don't want to talk about something, we can say that, even if we're friends or been friends for 10 years. Sometimes we're just not in a mental space to talk about something, and it's okay to say no. If somebody asks you about something, you're not in the mental space to talk about it, you can say that, hey, I'm not in the mental space right now to talk about it, but maybe we can talk about it over lunch or dinner, a different time. Or maybe I'm just not ready and I don't know when I will be ready to talk about it. You can do it short and sweet like that. Or if somebody always inviting you out, kind of set boundaries with them. And so there's different ways to say no. And I know saying no can sometimes, it hurts you, feeling like you're disappointing somebody, or you have the fear of missing out. And then it can also deter your self-worth as you feel like you're always saying no, always disappointing people, always just thinking about yourself. But it is your life. You do have to be selfish with your life. And in your 20s, that is something that is so hard for people to do, especially socially, saying no to items. I've never had a hard time with saying no to like different socially items. But within my career, I have had the issue of saying no, as I feel like I always have to prove myself, especially being young, and in positions that I've been put in. I always do feel like I always have to say yes. I always have to do anything that's asked of me, and I've had a hard time setting boundaries. But that is something that we do need to work on, is saying no, especially in our 20s. But there's boundaries to it. So that's why we have to look at our goals and see what they align to before we just say no. So take a step back. If it's not something you want to say no right away, you can say, hey, let me check my calendar. Let me get back to you when I get home. As that's something I kind of do as well, because I have a lot going on. So I never know my time frame. So I'm like, hey, give me some time. Let me check on that, and then I'll get an answer back to you. And so I go back and I reevaluate what's being asked of me. If it's with friendships, career-wise, and it's not something that I want to say yes right away or commit to right away, then I will take some time and really reevaluate if I want to say no, or I'm thinking about saying no. I try to see, okay, why do I want to say no to this? And then I try to look at the positives. How will this benefit me? How will it benefit me in the future? Will I be happy if I go to this? Or will I be, I guess, upset if I say no? So I just really evaluate the different things and kind of try to write down the goods and the bads of saying yes or no. For the yes, if it does align with where I'm trying to be in life and how I'm trying to build myself in the future, then I most likely will say yes to it. And that's not something that I really have to bring back to myself. But I do try to set boundaries with my career goals and my future goals. Is it hard to set boundaries? It is. It is really hard to set boundaries, because even at my age now, I feel like I should be further when there's different steps that people have to take. So I'm always trying to go further in life, trying to do better. And so for me, saying no and my career goals, that's really hard to do. But I feel like there is a difference in your 20s because you're trying to work towards your goals and where you want your final steps to be. If that's different tests you have to take to where you want to be or what position you need to be in. And then you have goals after that. So it's hard in your 20s because you're just working towards so many different things. And it does almost feel like you can't say no because you're trying to build your life, and you're trying to build who you are. So it's hard to say no and hard to kind of step back or take a break, because you just don't want to miss out on any opportunities. Because trust me, I get that. I say yes all the time to items that will help me build in the future, because I want to make sure that I don't miss out on any opportunities that are given to me or given my way or not be thought of if I did say no, or I don't want it to be negatively affected of me saying no or that being brought back up. So I do understand the difficultness it is to say no. So with saying no, you do have to be compassionate with yourself. You do have to think about yourself. Sometimes it is being selfish, yes. But you do need to think about yourself in your 20s. You need to make sure that you align with who you want to be and who you see yourself in the future. If you have kids, you have little ones that are looking up to you. So when you make decisions, you really have to really take a look at yourself and look in yourself on, okay, if you make this decision, who all is it going to affect? And just be compassionate. Yes, you may lose people if you say no to certain situations, but maybe you weren't supposed to be in those situations. Maybe you weren't supposed to have those friendships, or maybe you just aren't supposed to have those people in your life as they don't align as to where you want to be. So sometimes you do have to give things up. And it may be hard saying no. I know for me, it's hard saying no on different items, especially with my kids, as they always have a ton of activities. A lot of people invite us out to go hang out. And this year I have kind of had to set boundaries. Like, okay, this day is for these certain activities and that's it. We can't do anything extra. Maybe we'll pick up 1 or 2 items if we get invited out. But I have had to set boundaries this year, as I was overdoing it these past years of everything that we got invited to. I said yes, because I didn't want, to maybe lose a friendship. I didn't want those kids to feel like they didn't have anybody there, or just socially, being socially accepted. So I would always say yes. I would always say yes to social items. And so that did, I wasn't protecting my energy, and that as I was overly exerting ourselves, overly, giving ourselves when I needed mental space. Sometimes I needed a mental health day, or sometimes I just wanted to be lazy. I just wanted us to have a lazy day at home, just stay at home. I do like to do a lot of different things. I like to do a lot of fun activities. We live in Dallas, so of course there's so much stuff to do in Dallas. And I love finding those items. I love hanging out with my friends and going to those. I love doing a ton of different kid things. But there is a point where I do need to say no, because I'm either overspending money, or I just need to protect our energy. If I'm not feeling like doing a ton of things this week, I'm going to set boundaries. And so that's what you have to do for yourself, is make sure you set boundaries for yourself. If you feel like you're not in the mental space, you don't want to be going out, you don't want to be doing this, look at what you want to focus on. What do you want to focus on right now? Or what this month have you written down for your goals that's going to align with your 1-year goals, 5-year goals? So just write down, set those boundaries, set down, okay, what can you do this month? And then what are items that you may want to say no to? Or sometimes it's a maybe. Sometimes it's, okay, let's get back to this item. Hey, I need a minute to think about it. I'm going to need this time frame to think about it. Or maybe it's something I won't know till the same day. So we'll revisit the same day when you're needing this item. And if I'm available, I will let you know. But please be polite. When saying no, you do not have to be mean. You do not have to be rude about it. You don't have to say, no, you don't deserve an explanation, or just say nothing at all. You can be polite about it. You can say, no, let me check my schedule. Hey, no, not at this time. I'm not in the mental space. Or you can just say, no, that's during my family time, which I prioritize during that time. Because that's also setting boundaries. Is setting boundaries on what you want in life. So that's what we kind of have to take a look at with saying no, is looking more into the reasons as to why you want to do something versus why you don't want to do something. If it's really something that you don't want to do, it's not going to affect you in any way. If you do or don't go, then just say no. Just say no right off the bat. And yes, it may be hard to sometimes give an explanation if you don't have anything going on that day, but you can just find a polite way to say it. You don't have to give a long explanation, a long drawn out explanation. Usually people don't want to hear that. Just say no, get straight to the point, be very clear on saying no. So don't have it like as a possibility or maybe, or just have it open. Just be straight to the point when you're saying it. So be clear when you say it. Okay, so the different strategies that we talked about was being clear, being direct. So make sure when you say no, you're saying no and not leaving it open. So be clear. Give a small explanation. You don't have to go so far out or send a paragraph. You can just send, a few extra words, a little sentence. But just be clear, be direct. Make sure you set boundaries for yourself. If you have a family and you want family time, and maybe Saturdays is when you're off work and that's when you want it to be family time during the day, but maybe nighttime is something that is open. Set those boundaries and make sure that they're known. Be compassionate with yourself. Make sure, be compassionate. Think about yourself. Watch your mental health. But you still have to be striving for stuff in your 20s. You still have to be working towards your goals. So yes, you are going to feel tired. You are going to feel burnt out. You're going to feel a ton of different things, maybe confused. But have some compassion for yourself. And then you can delay your response. That's one big thing. If it's really hard to say no up front, say, hey, let me check my calendar. Hey, let me get back to you on this date, as I have a few items that are coming up. So I just want to check and be sure. If you want to delay your responses, it's not something that you want to say right away, you can do that. That's actually something I use a lot. When it's something that I may potentially want to say no to, I do delay my response, as it's something that I may need to think about. So just use those strategies on saying no. But again, I know I keep saying this, but you are in your 20s. You do need to have compassion for yourself, but you're going to be working towards your goals. You're going to feel tired sometimes. Sometimes you're going to feel like you need a break, but you just have so many items going on, so many different things that you're working on, so many goals that you're working towards, and trying to strive to be. And that's actually a good thing. It's a good thing that you're always working towards something. That's actually a blessing that you're able to work towards those goals. Even though you may feel tired, may feel burnt out, may feel like you want to give up on your goals, you can take a break. You can say no socially. Just get yourself a circle where you guys are all working towards goals. It doesn't have to be the same goal. It can be different things that you're working towards, as that group will understand, and you guys can keep pushing each other, keep motivating each other to do better in life. So get people around you that are like that, because it's harder when you have people around you who don't understand why you're saying no, or why you're working on items and are never able to go out maybe at night because you have different projects that you're working on, or you have different work items that you need to work on, or different tasks. So make sure you surround yourself with people who understand the art of saying no, and will not take it personally, because that's how my circle of friends are. We don't take anything personally. I know they're busy. They know I'm busy. Sometimes we see each other once a month, sometimes every other month, or sometimes even once a year. But we keep in contact on the phone. Social media is a big thing. I know social media, we can go into a whole rant. But you can keep in touch with people on social media. You can see what they're doing, see what they're up to, or just have a group message, send a text, have a personal Snapchat with just your close friends where you can show them what's going on, what you're working on, and what you're doing. So just keep in mind with the circle of friends that you have around, because that can also make it easier with the art of saying no. And then you can collaborate with other people as well when you're having a hard decision on something that you may want to say yes or no on. You have people that you can speak with. But thank you again for coming to Redefining Your 20s. I do apologize. It took me a while to get this episode out, as I actually did break a tooth. And so I'm going through that right now. So I've been out this past month, kind of, as they did put a temporary end. And then they have to check that. And then I think in another 8 weeks, that's when it comes in. So I'm kind of dealing with that. So if it does take a little bit for another episode to come out. And then I was also kind of in my head like, oh, you can see the tooth, or you can see where it's fake at. But you really can't see it because it's kind of towards the back of my mouth. So that was kind of me also being in my head. And that can happen. We've talked about imposter syndrome. But I hope you guys each have a good week, and thank you for listening.